What do you do when your partner of 10 years says that they want to bring another person into the relationship? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, my 33, dad 55, is remarrying after the death of my mother. My mom died in November of 2021. She battled cancer for about 5 years before she finally succumbed to it. It was rough. My parents had lived away most of that time and decided to move closer the last few months of her life. I have 3 kids and my daughter, 11, did not take it well. My mom and dad had never been close to my kids. My parents have basically lived across the country for most of adult life, which means I haven't been close with my parents in years. It was their choice and that's fine, but they definitely have lost out on getting to know their grandchildren. My daughter, 11, has had a difficult time dealing with my mom's death. I think it's more about what never was than grieving what she had. She's currently in therapy for a few reasons and has recently been having nightmares that my mom is part of. It's been tough on her, but we're trying to help her through it. My other 2 children, 9 and 3, haven't really had any issues. They were younger and my 9-year-old has few memories of my mom. My dad called me about 3 weeks ago and asked me how I felt about him dating. I told him I just wanted him happy. He then told me he'd went out to dinner with someone that he and my mom had known and went to school with. I didn't really think much of it. It was weird and I definitely needed to process it a bit, but I understood and wasn't mad at him. About 3 days after calling me, he posted a picture of himself and this woman on social media. I was kind of flabbergasted at that point. It blew me away that after one day they were posting pictures together. I didn't say anything to him about it. Over the weekend, he asked us to come to his house because we hadn't seen him since before Christmas. We went and he informed me that the new woman would be there and we could meet her. He made sure it was okay with us, but I feel like she would have come no matter what. It went fine, she was nice enough. Fast forward to today, my dad asked me to call him. Weird because we don't talk often. I call him and immediately upon answering, he blurts out that he's getting married. I literally laughed at him. He told me he wasn't joking and is getting married on February 24th. I continued to laugh and told him to please just text me the details. I didn't know how to react. I'm not mad at him. I'm just amazed at how quickly he's decided to jump into this. My dad has 3 kids still in high school living at home. This woman has a 20-something-year-old son with 2 kids and a wife living with her. I can't imagine my dad has really thought of the ramifications of everything. I'm going to have to go home tonight and explain to my kids what is happening. Obviously, my 3-year-old won't care, but the other 2 will have questions. My daughter, 11, is going to be so confused. How can I make this easy on my kids without making things worse? Realistically, we maybe see my dad once every 5 or 6 weeks and he and my kids aren't close. I just know my daughter is going to really question this. So my first question is, does anybody really think it was dating for a month, or is this just his cover story and it's probably been going on for quite some time? Either way, although it's very weird to remarry so fast, I think I would just try to explain to your kid that he probably missed the connection he had with his wife, and he wants that connection and comfort of being with somebody that he loves. That, especially at that age, it's so much nicer to have somebody with you, and hopefully she understands and you can answer whatever questions she does have. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy tricky relationship topics, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is it normal for my 20-year-old female boyfriend, male 21, to all of a sudden recommend detailed changes to my appearance? Please don't hate on me, but this is my first relationship, so even though we've been together for 2.5 years, this kind of made me feel weird, and I don't know anything besides this relationship, so I don't know if this is something partners do without having anything behind it. Okay, so I have wavy hair. And I already know my boyfriend prefers my hair straightened, which I still don't know completely how to do. It's so difficult, it doesn't hold, and it also just frizzes and puffs out after a while. Anyways, yesterday while me and my boyfriend were texting after a date, he told me I looked very beautiful today. He tells me my hair looks more beautiful when it's dirty, probably because it gets straighter, I don't know, and I hadn't washed it yet, so it was like that yesterday. Then he asked me if he may recommend something for me for my appearance. He started with promising he hadn't seen it anywhere or on anyone, but he recommended that I should straighten and cut my hair and do dark eye makeup and red lips and something to make your cheekbones pop. I don't even know if he meant contour or something with the last one, but I never ever used contour, so I don't know. So this kind of made me feel weird, especially because it was so detailed. And I think the makeup didn't really make me feel weird, but the hair especially, because it's completely against my natural hair, and I think my hair texture and style wouldn't even support it. And it would look weird unless I straighten it every day. So I know this was long, but my question is this something normal that partners do? I know he's just recommending something, and that's good, I guess, and I wouldn't mind, but it was so much and so many details at once. So I'm not buying his whole, listen, I hadn't seen it anywhere and it wasn't anyone that made me think this. I feel like this is almost certainly kind of a, I saw somebody else that looks like this. Can you try and turn yourself into her? I mean, as far as like suggesting changes or preferences with your partner, especially when you've experienced one thing or the other, like you prefer your partner how they look with long hair or something, that's normal and fine, and you still do whatever you want, of course. But I agree with OP that this seemed too much all out of the blue and also very specific, and I think he just blatantly told on himself. Our next story is, my friends say my mother and I have an incestuous relationship. As the title says, my friends and I were recently discussing our relationships with our mothers, and when I went on to describe mine, they looked extremely concerned and said that my mother and I have an emotionally incestuous relationship. To be honest, I was incredibly offended and upset, but now that I think about it, I'm starting to get scared that my relationship with my mother is something other than what I thought it was. I always considered my mother and I to be close, both physically and mentally. My friends say that these are the reasons I should move out once I hit 18. My mother walks around naked in front of me, and specifically only me. It's not like she plays it up or anything, but it happens pretty often. My friends tell me this isn't normal, and I guess it isn't, but I always assumed it was because we were the same gender. This was the biggest reason to them. My mother and I play fight. I playfully bite her or pretend to hit her, and she does the same to me. She also threatens to hit me when I'm being purposely annoying or calls me a little crap. My friends say this isn't normal. My mother and father never had a good marriage, and my father and I don't have the best relationship due to prior abuse. It's complicated and not the point, but she often vents her frustrations with him on me. He abused her for the entirety of their relationship, and she often insults him, yells at him in front of me, or spills out secrets from their relationship, romantically, not sexually. My friends say she shouldn't be doing this, and I guess I agree to an extent, as I often shut down when an argument occurs, or I get scared easily, but she's been abused by him for more than 20 years, and I want her to have a safe space to talk about her feelings. She talks to me openly about sex. Not her prior experiences, of course, but more so what happens, what I should expect, and what I shouldn't tolerate. I don't talk to her about my experiences, but I'm open about what I think was weird in the experience or what I didn't like, and she gives me advice on what I should do. My friends say my mother shouldn't be talking to me about sex, period, and I get that, I suppose, but still. She doesn't like any of my friends or any partners. I get this because I've had some experiences with bad friends, and I almost got myself into a sexual/romantic relationship with someone not my age, 20s, when I was 13 before I told her. She tells me it's because she's protective of me and wants me to be treated fairly, and I'm happy she watches out for me, but my friends call this overbearing. It does get annoying sometimes, but I get she just wants the best for me. She's very physically affectionate with me. She kisses my head, hugs me a lot, strokes and sniffs my hair, holds my hand, etc. She does this a lot in public and in private, and my friends say this is weird of her to be this affectionate. Maybe it is, but I never thought it crossed into anything inappropriate. She's closer to me out of any of our siblings and calls me the favorite, just to me. She's never treated us any differently to my knowledge, and is still affectionate and loving to my other siblings, but my friends say this isn't healthy. I never saw anything wrong with her behavior until this was pointed out to me, and I'm starting to get scared that maybe this isn't normal, or maybe I'm reading too much into it and I need better friends. So everything OP described to me, I don't think is inappropriate. To me, I think the only thing that actually may cross a line is just the walking around without clothes, and even that's understandable enough, especially since they're the same gender, and the simple fact that some families are comfortable with that. As long as the physical contact isn't pushing any boundaries and you both feel completely comfortable with what's going on, there's nothing weird with that. I just think a lot of these friends grew up in a household where there wasn't much physical affection. I mean, shoot, I grew up in a household where there wasn't much physical affection, but I still see what OP's saying and don't think it's crazy. This next story is, my boyfriend, 24-year-old male, said I'd, 24-year-old female, be a terrible mother. Should I address this? This morning, I was a bit annoyed with my partner. The main thing is he always rushes to get ready in the morning and asks me to help with small tasks. For example, he'll ask, "Can you pack my lunch? Can you make me a coffee?" while he's rushing around getting ready for work. I'm fine doing these things occasionally, but I also work full-time and need to get ready myself. This morning, we both needed to shower at the same time. I let him go first. When I needed to brush my teeth, he was in the bathroom. I couldn't get myself ready, so I decided to go in the kitchen and finish making his breakfast and make him a cup of tea. When he was done and came to sit next to me to eat his food, he asked me, "Can you pack my lunch for me?" At this point, I was a little annoyed and said, "Why can't you do it? I still have to go get ready." To which he got annoyed and said, "Just do it. Stop complaining. I don't need to hear this right now." This is where I got more annoyed and added, "You don't even do anything for me. I asked you to make a grocery list yesterday and you never did it." For context, I always work 1+ more hours than him every day. I asked him to help out with that because he finished at 4 and has spare time after work, whereas I usually finish around 6. At this point, he got really mad, and it escalated to him saying I'm ruining his morning on purpose and making him late to work. He capped it off by saying, "I'm going to be a terrible mom because I'm complaining about stuff like this." This really hurt my feelings, and I told him this. He repeated that it was true. I'd be a crap mom and that I should just suck it up and do things without complaining, especially in the morning, which is ruining his workday. I really wasn't trying to ruin his workday. I admit I was being snarky, but I truly didn't think he would get so mad. I thought it would be okay if I comment my opinion without him being so upset. I'm concerned because I feel like his response was so hurtful and I can't get that comment out of my mind. It really hurt me to hear my partner of 9 years say something like that. He thinks it's fine because it was in the heat of the moment. I don't really know if it was me in the wrong because I see his point in ruining the morning, but I'm also quick to blame myself and already feel myself pushing away what he said. But dang, it hurt to hear that. I think when he says, "You're going to be a terrible mom," he's saying, "You're not being a very good mom to me right now." I mean, that's what it reads to me. His behavior all throughout this is ridiculous to me. Not a partner, more like a kid. This next story is, my 28-year-old male, partner 24, asked for a break because I was homeless amidst the housing crisis. My landlord flaked on me and I ended up couch hopping and occasionally car sleeping. My partner went from being supportive and nurturing to judgmental and corrosive throughout the next 6 weeks. I had 2 jobs and still had to commute long distances for them, depending on where I'd wake up that morning. She criticized me for not having a plan or a real job. Even though she basically had the same job as I did, she asked to take a break for a couple of weeks because she feels I need space in order to figure myself out. I find out later that she's also told her family, friends, co-workers, and my own parents that we're taking a break and that I'm homeless. When I talked to her about it and asked why she did this, she said she needed support. I finally found an apartment for us 3 months after that, being homeless for 5 months in total, and she was happy to move in together, as we'd talked about that a lot. We'd basically lived together already. She was also couch hopping and car sleeping when we first started dating, and she basically moved into my apartment shortly after. We mentioned this to her dad one morning, and he immediately ridiculed us. From moving to the location we chose, to not saving money for school, to questioning our competence on making life decisions. All while just sitting there and avoiding any hint of disagreement or display of talking back. He had instigated arguments like this before, and it was clear by now that responding in any way would only make it worse. He ended it off by approaching me alone afterwards to add, "Might want to spend the next few years learning some skills, my friend." Partner ran off to her room crying and later ridiculed me for trying to argue with him, further adding that she didn't know if she was making the right decision and was second-guessing everything in her head again. We're still together, but my trust with her has been fractured to say the least. I went from believing this wonderful human would never in a million years break up with me to having to always be mentally prepared for that possibility, regardless of which one of us ends up breaking it off. So my question is, at this point, what is OP getting out of this relationship? Are they providing anything for OP besides the grief and fear that it's going to be over at some point? I mean, really, what's the glue that's keeping OP attached here? This next story is, I'm 38-year-old male, and my boyfriend, 38-year-old male, is nasty about his weed. My boyfriend and I have been together for almost 4 years. Normally, I'll go to the dispensary for him since I have my card about 1 to 2 times a week. I hardly ever use myself, but he smokes multiple times a day. I've been having lots of challenges at work, making it stressful, and I've had to work longer hours, and not being able to take a lunch. I have a son who lives almost an hour away, but I see at least twice a week and every other weekend. This week I also have to travel out of town for work and coordinate my son's care since my ex is out of town on vacation. Yesterday my boyfriend asked me to stop at the dispensary for him, but I had my son and couldn't make it there in time. I told him I could do it today but had a staffing issue and couldn't leave for lunch as planned, and my shift ended after they were closed. When I was done with work, he texted me and asked if I went to the dispensary. I told him I didn't make it today because of what had happened at work. He got very upset and said he didn't care what happened at work and that I said I could, then couldn't. And he was annoyed and will be irritable at work tomorrow and to leave him alone, so I didn't text back. When I got home after a very long, stressful day, I said hello and he said nothing. I took my coat and shoes off, sat next to him, said hello again, and he said I was purposely irritating him. And he wants to be left alone and to get away from him because he's mad and I want to start an argument and I was provoking him. He was eating dinner obviously knowing I'd be hungry but didn't wait for me like usual. After he yelled, I went to our room and I'm laying in bed, not sure what I should do. I'm tired of being treated so poorly. When he doesn't have his weed, he gets so angry. I want to feel loved and safe with my partner. I don't even know how to approach this conversation because anytime we talk about his weed usage, he immediately gets angry. I don't care if he uses or not, I just care about the way I'm being treated. I mean, it just kind of sounds like OP is the hookup and not really being treated as a partner per se. I mean, I get like if he needs it in his day-to-day to really kind of keep him grounded, but like he can't just act out and lash out at you like that when stuff goes wrong and you can't get the hookup. Beyond this kind of behavior, is the relationship redeeming and giving you added value? Our next story is, my boyfriend, 27, told me he'll want a threesome after years of relationship. My boyfriend mentioned that in a long-term relationship, like in 10 plus years, he would like to have the option to do a threesome. So I'm 27 years old, female. I'm currently talking with my boyfriend about the possibility of maybe buying a house together in my home country. We're living together and dating for almost 2 years. Now he mentioned that he would buy the house with me and he sees us together for the whole life. But he said that at some point over the years he'll want to explore his sexuality and maybe ask for a threesome, and he wants to be reassured that I will not hate him. The thing is, we're currently happy with our monogamous life, but we're young and it's not like I don't think about the possibility too. I just feel sad that over the fact that only 2 years into the relationship he's bringing this, I will want a threesome when our sex life gets boring. I never had a long-term relationship before. I don't know how I'll feel about it in 5 to 10 years. He says that if it happens, he'll be okay with me having the same amount of freedom than him. I really don't know what to feel. Maybe I'll want to try new experiences too. Who knows? I just don't like how realistic he's being and I have no idea how to deal with this. Now, I don't want to, and I don't want to compromise in having this type of experience if I don't feel like it. But I don't know if someday I will want. It's really complicated. Any insight is appreciated. Update, lots of good advice here. I appreciate everyone who answered so I can understand the situation from his perspective too, but my final decision is I'm not going to force myself to have sex with someone to please him or because he's lost or is losing interest for me. Heck, I'm freaking 27 years old and I'm attractive. He's making me feel like I'm not enough, and honestly, it's pretty selfish. So I'll be selfish too. If he can't accept that I don't want it now, it's his problem, not mine. I have no idea what's going to happen in the future, but I'm willing to try to discover this future together with him if he can respect my boundaries. If he can't, I leave. Everyone is free to do whatever they want. We don't want any kids or even being married, and we don't need to buy any house anytime soon. My first job is to make me happy before making others. Thanks for the help, everybody. I don't think I'll break up with him just because he voiced his wishes. I'll just answer openly. Update 2, I had a conversation with him. I voiced all my worries and he was a total sweetheart about it. He says even he's not entirely sure about what he wants, but he appreciates my honesty, and I'm the most important person to him. He is totally okay with my boundaries, and we agree that if someday we want something different to happen, we will tell each other. But now we're good the way things are. I am concerned that in this relationship, he's saying now, listen, in 10 years, I'm going to want to do this thing. And at least now, it seems like OP's pretty sure they probably wouldn't want that. So he's essentially saying, okay, I'm going to just ignore the things I said that I'm going to want to do in 10 years. And in 10 years, if we want something different, we'll bring it up then. I just wish OP the best in the long-term compatibility. This next story is, husband, 30-year-old male, is poly. I, 30-year-old female, am not. At a crossroads. My husband, let's refer to him as H, and I have been together for 10 years, married for 8 years, and have a child, 6. We've been happy overall, but now we don't know what to do anymore. He's always been vocal that he would like to have an open relationship. I am strictly monogamous. Since I told him I wouldn't want that, he said that it isn't a big deal for him, but if I ever changed my mind, he would be happy. The biggest problem we've had so far is that I need time to spend by myself, and he would love to spend every second with me. We were talking about it and always working on making each other as happy as possible, given that we have different needs and want them to be as fulfilled as possible. We were fine and happy for a long time. Sometimes we talked about having a crush on someone and that was it, but at the end of December, he told me that he had a crush on a coworker of his. No big deal, we talked about it, and during Christmas break, he told me he's losing feelings for her. Well, after Christmas break, he had those feelings again. And this time, the coworker was going through a crisis at home, separated from her husband, and H and I were helping her. I think his feelings depend in this situation, but I told him I wasn't happy and wanted him to draw a line. He did. But yesterday, he confessed that he was hoping that there could be more between them and that he really liked forming a connection of that kind. He said that he thinks he might be polyamorous and that he really enjoyed forming that connection, and he doesn't think that he'll be able to be strictly monogamous anymore. He also emphasized that I am the most important person in the world, and he doesn't really grasp why I'm this hurt, since he felt even closer to me than before, and he is more interested in forming a romantic relationship with someone else than having a sexual relationship. He wasn't even physically attracted to said coworker. The last weeks were a little draining for me since I supported him through his feelings and his heartbreak, and I don't know if I can do this again. We're at a crossroads where we don't know what to do anymore. The thought of him forming a relationship like we have with someone else hurts me deeply, and he can't go back to how it was before. Hasn't felt like this before when we had a crush. But we really want to work through this since we share a deep love for each other. Does anybody know what we could do? Or how we could navigate? Feel free to ask questions. I don't think that I was able to put everything in this post since it's a very complex and nuanced situation. I think this is just plain old compatibility issues. I don't really buy him saying that you are the most important person in the world to him, and then following that up with, I need to see other people in my life. But bottom line here, he wants to have other people involved. He wants to be around romantically at least, probably sexually too, other people, and it's just not something OP's comfortable with. I mean, you either go along with it and you hate every second of it, or you try to put up with it, or you continue to pressure him to be monogamous, which he's expressing he doesn't want to do either. My question is, what is the breaking point? Our next story is, husband thinks I'm not doing enough. I'm 43 and teaching at a university. My schedule is quite fixed, and every term I must either choose the early shift, which is between 8:45 to 12:30, or 1 p.m. to 4:45 p.m. We have a 4.5-year-old son, and he needs to be at school until 9 a.m. Since he leaves at 4 p.m., I choose the early shift to be able to take him from school. My husband works at an ad agency. His schedule is more flexible than mine, so every weekday, I wake up at 6 a.m. to prepare breakfast for them and get ready for school. I also put everything my son will need for school in his bag and ready his clothes, etc. before I leave home. All my husband needs to do is wake up, have breakfast with my son, and then help him out while he's wearing his stuff and leave for school and work. Plus, he has a car and the school's just 3 minutes away from home by car. I don't have a car and I need to use public transportation to commute to work. Anyway, when I leave school, I usually come home to tidy up and clean the house. I try to do all the chores that are needed that day. I also cook every day and keep the fridge full. After doing all these things, I leave home to take our son from school. After school, my son wants to play with me at home, so we do so. Then he watches some cartoons, and at the same time, I do the chores that I couldn't do in the afternoon. So at about 6:30 p.m., I set the table and eat together with our son. My husband comes home at around 8 p.m. and has his dinner, and he sometimes helps our son while he's bathing. Then they either play for 15 minutes or watch something. Then he sometimes puts him in bed and does all the routine activities like reading a book or telling a story, etc. Meanwhile, I tidy up the kitchen, etc. At the weekends, I usually do the chores again. My husband sometimes takes our son outside for shopping or playing for 1 to 2 hours, and then when he comes home, he rests in a room or plays PlayStation games. My husband is paid 3 times more than I am, so I think that's why he thinks he doesn't have to do anything at home. He thinks I need to do some extra to earn more money, or I need to reschedule my work, which is impossible, as I've told him many times, since we cannot have such individual schedules at school. He thinks that at the weekends he needs to spend more time resting or doing stuff that he likes, which I support, and have told him many times to organize some night out with his friends, etc., but he never does so because he's not the social type. When I sometimes tell him that I don't have any time for myself either, he says that I work part-time and that I have all the time in the world, but that I'm just lazy. When I tell him that he does not even bother putting the dishes in the dishwasher, he says it's my duty. He is constantly complaining about what he sees not being done or completed at home, and because he's taking our son to school in the morning, he thinks he's doing more than he should. And I'm done with this. What do you think I should do? OP literally keeps everything functioning, everything working, and he says you're not doing enough or you're not taking enough time for yourself? I mean, this guy's crazy. If OP needs to do any more, OP should hire some help so that OP does have some time to do stuff for themselves. Or go a while without doing the things that you do to actually hold things down. Maybe they'll realize how much you actually do. I doubt it though, he'll probably just argue louder. Our next story is, my girlfriend, 36-year-old female, kept me, 41-year-old male, up all night before an important work project, and I don't know what to do. Something pretty heavy just happened in my relationship, and I'm reeling, exhausted, and devastated. Last week, I had an important film shoot. I'm a producer, director. I was delayed in picking up the gear, so it was 10:30 p.m. or so before I had a chance to check all the equipment in our shared studio apartment. Still, it was an hour and a half of work at most, and I could still get enough sleep that night. My girlfriend arrived home around 10 p.m. or so, and the moment I started looking over the gear, she asked me if I needed help with the equipment. Initially, I thought this was a little unusual of an offer, because she and I both knew that she doesn't know the gear. I politely reminded her of that fact, and that what I needed now was total quiet so I could focus on the 8 to 10 bags I had in my possession. To make sure nothing was missing, everything worked, to charge the batteries, etc. We had done projects together in the past, with her starring, she's an artist. And she knew enough to know that, well, she didn't know the gear. So I continued to do my task at hand. Then the next question came, do you want to look over your storyboards? I said, no, actually, storyboards have been done for 2 days. What I really need is quiet. And then the next question came, do you need help with interview questions? I repeated a similar thing. No, interview questions are done, I just need quiet. There was nowhere for me to go in our small studio apartment. So at one point I put on AirPods to drown her out, but she still talked over the music. I had audio gear, camera gear, and lighting, so even the smallest missing piece could be costly on the day of the shoot. It wasn't a hard task, but I needed to be really focused for that hour and a half. What followed from here, I'm still having trouble getting over or understanding. For the next 2 to 3 hours, I was being offered help, which I didn't need, and I repeated myself again and again with the same refrain, I just need quiet, please, that she repeatedly ignored. Every time I was interrupted, I lost my focus, and I had to start that particular task from the beginning. I was getting more and more desperate as the hours went by. First, I was worried that I wouldn't get enough sleep. Then, I started worrying if the task would get finished at all. At a certain point in the night, this was still going on, 2 a.m. or so, I started losing gas, so I shifted strategies and tried going to sleep. The idea was to get a bit of rest and then do it in the morning. But at that point, my heart was racing. and I was so upset and confused about what was going on that I couldn't sleep. So I got up again with a bit of a second wind and tried again. And there she was again, offering her help, distracting me. I went from politely asking to be left alone, to pleading, to begging. Eventually, I got angry and yelled. Nothing worked. In the end, I got less than an hour of rest that night and was late to my own set because I had to do that essential work I couldn't finish with her interrupting me. The shoot went well, somehow, but it could have been a complete disaster with me running on no sleep if I couldn't perform properly. I'm writing all this because I don't know what to do. My girlfriend and I have had a loving relationship with a lot of common ground and a lot of good times. I've known her for our entire relationship to be somewhat obsessive in her career, theater, and interests, which has its drawbacks. I really love her, but I'm leaning towards breaking up. She gives no explanation for what happened. What the actual heck just happened? Has anyone heard of behavior like this in what was seemingly a happy 4-year relationship? I can't seem to get much out of her besides, "You seem stressed." But I wasn't. I was ready. I just don't understand what's going on. The shoot on no sleep was grueling, but I survived. I'm still so physically and mentally tired and beat up by what happened. I'm stunned anyone would behave this way. I just don't understand. I think her behavior obviously is very odd. You're telling me that for hours on end, she kind of just sat there and kept asking if she could help you with something, like an AI assistant on standby. Did OP tell her when she said you seem stressed that literally she was stressing you out? Is OP just not being forthcoming enough about their feelings here that their girlfriend thinks they're in the clear? I mean, I'm just confused by her behavior just as much as OP is. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another extremely tricky relationship topic, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.